Hi, everybody. It's Liz. We are back with another episode of Beyond with Liz. And today I am here with my dear friend Mo Davis. She is a wonderful wedding photographer based out of New Orleans. And Mo, I'm going to give you the floor I always let everyone introduce themselves,
Oh
but I feel like I'm
God.
terrible at it.
Okay, I am Mo Davis. People don't know my real name is Mosha. Born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. I currently reside in New Orleans, Louisiana. I think I've been here going on 5 years. I'm a fine art, wedding, and travel photographer and just doing what I love.
Oh my goodness, Mo is being humble. Mo is amazing.
Wow.
Okay, I'm so inspired by her. I just go to her page and look at her highlights. Like, sis is amazing at what she does. And I didn't know you were from Birmingham. So my dad's family is from
Really?
Powderly, and that's where I spent all my summers in the red clay, getting my feet bit up.
Oh yeah.
So very familiar with Birmingham.
And you went to Tuskegee, right? I knew that you
Yes,
had
I
like
went
an
to
Alabama
Tuskegee.
connection. Yeah. That's
Yep. So, Mo, like I said, I'm very inspired by your work. I feel like you shoot in a way where it is storytelling first. And like, I really would love to get an understanding of like just your journey with photography and like how you ended up with
absolutely.
weddings and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. People don't know this. I was a biology major in chemistry and major in college, and my path was supposed to be that of the medical field. And I knew that I was never an analytical person. I guess I was analytical. I just didn't want to be. I knew that I was more artistic, but coming from like a small high school that just didn't offer, those classes, photography, painting, sculpting, any of that, I was exposed to art just later in my life. And I always knew that I loved cameras, not necessarily photography. I was just fascinated with cameras. For every Christmas, I would ask for a camera. And looking back at my journey, now I realize that I was the person as a kid who was taking like all of the family photos. And I didn't even recognize it at the time. But I knew that I loved art. I just had not been exposed to like the right type of art. And so a friend of mine encouraged me to just buy a camera. And that's exactly what I did. I bought a Canon Rebel. That was my
Yes.
first like digital camera that I bought. And I knew my cousin, his son played Little League football. And so I was like, I need to figure out a way to learn everything about this camera. And so I showed up at a Little League football game and just started shooting away. And I would sell the photos for $2 a piece to like all the parents. And I would go to Wolf Camera. Back then Wolf Camera
Yes,
was like huge. So
it
I would go to
was.
Wolf Camera and get them developed. And I knew that I was onto something because like the second time I did it, there was like a huge line of parents. And I had no idea that they were waiting for me because like apparently it's like a huge thing. You didn't take any pictures of my son. You didn't get enough pictures of my son. And I'm like, wait a minute, I could be onto something. Like people
Yeah.
are really liking the photos and they're really selling. And so from there I ended up shooting food and from there I just ended up shooting weddings. I love detail and movement, like football and food, and I feel like weddings are just a good combination of both. And so
Yeah.
it just made perfect sense for me to start shoot weddings.
When you say that you love movement, it's
Yeah.
like you can definitely tell that in your work and
Thank
just the way that you capture movement. It's like I really feel like it's just different and it's just very like intriguing. And I'm like always thinking like what was happening in that moment. And I feel like that is to me like the base of a strong image.
you.
And so I would love to know like how you kind of go about capturing those moments. Like what is your approach to a wedding day? Because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's different for each wedding, just depending on like the couple. And back when I was shooting a lot of digital, I would say it was the same because I had kind of a step and repeat process. When I was shooting digital, I was a bit of a wild shooter. I was kind of all over the place because you have a memory card with 5,000 images. Let's shoot them up. And so I feel like I was less intentional on wedding day, but now I tell people all the time, my motto is like I shoot what I see. Whether that's like editorial or just journalistic, I shoot what unfolds in front of me. I kind of let the wedding day happen normally and naturally without like pushing my couple to like take 1,000 editorial photos. I try not to do that, but sometimes if I see, really good framing or see really good light, I'm going to, just encourage or push a couple, hey, let's take like 5 to 10 editorial shots and just be done. But I like to let the wedding day unfold just completely naturally. And I feel like that's what my couples expect from me. They don't expect me to be in their face all the time. They don't expect, to spend 2 hours after a ceremony, like taking photos. But it took me a while to get here to realize that less is more,
Yeah.
and that has been my motto for years.
Yeah, and I love that you talked about film
Yeah.
because that's where I started my
Oh,
career was
yeah.
on film majority of the time. So now you're shooting a lot of 35 millimeter too,
I
right?
am.
Yeah,
That's honestly my favorite camera.
yeah,
I
me
love the
too.
look and feel the sound of a 35 millimeter. I don't think I'll ever stop shooting 35 millimeter. And people ask me all the time, there's like a huge shift into digital right now. And,
Mhm.
ever so often you will see different trends like come and go throughout the wedding industry. And I do shoot digital as well, but the majority of what I shoot is film. And I love the surprises that you get,
Yeah.
when the film scans arrive. And I love the anticipation of waiting for the film scans to come back. It's just like something that I've always enjoyed doing, and I don't think I'll ever stop.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I just want to encourage anybody that is listening, if you haven't taken the time to explore film, it will change the way that you see as a photographer. And just like Mo say, it will make you more intentional because when you're spending
The
money
money.
every
Oh, yeah.
time,
Oh, yeah.
every time you take a picture, it's
Absolutely.
gonna make you think about it more.
Yeah. And people don't realize, like, you have to pay for the film and then you have to pay for the process. And it's a lot of money. And so it actually makes you very intentional about what you shoot. And you're waiting for the moments to happen instead of just like trying to create them. I'm not going to look at 100 rolls of film and just say to myself, I need to shoot all of this film like you would, like, if you have a digital card in your camera. So it makes you so much more intentional. And I just don't think I'll ever stop.
Yeah, I love that. And I will say for me, I've definitely made it a transition because I was shooting Fuji 400H for a very long time and then they got rid of that, which
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
hurt my heart. And so I moved on to 35 millimeter and now I shoot like Portrait 800. I love it at
Oh,
night.
wow. Yeah.
And so I really feel like the depth and the tone and texture that you get from film. I love digital, don't get me wrong, and even
Yeah.
medium format digital,
Yeah.
you can kind of sometimes get closer to it, but there's just an extra element to the storytelling that you can get on film that in my opinion that you just can't, the grain and the feel that you just can't get on digital.
Absolutely. And it's just, I've seen people come close, but it's impossible to duplicate what you get on film and digital. And it's a completely different look. It's a completely different feel. I feel like the colors are just so vibrant without being oversaturated and just superficial. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And so I would love to like kind of explore like how you approach a day. I know you say that you are a little bit, not intrusive to your couple. And so like what are some of the things that you do to kind of prep them like when it comes to the way that you're going to tell the story? Because I know each couple is different, but like what
Yeah.
does that look like for you?
I think I always try to stress, and not stress, but the importance of like an engagement session or a bridal session. Because to me, that just gives you a little familiarity about your photographer. Like you have the day to spend with each other. And I just did a session in New York, and everybody commented on it because it was basically like we just spent the entire day hanging out. And I took a few photos in between. It was just such a cool
Mhm.
experience. And that's what I want my wedding day to feel like. Like couples are really enjoying their day and we're just taking a few photos in between. But the Brooklyn session that I shot, I don't think I've ever had response from an engagement session like that because we started out at their apartment and it was from beginning to end when they were getting ready, like washing their
Oh, I love
face,
that.
putting their clothes on, hailing a cab and going to buy wine, getting pizza, and coming back home and watching a movie. So all of that was captured. And that's exactly how I want my wedding days to feel. I just want them to feel so relaxed to the point where you forget that a photographer is even there.
It just makes me smile because those are the images that 20 years from now people are
Oh,
going to
yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Like, and I tell my clients capture engagement sessions in two ways. One where we're sentimental, where we are trying to submit where they are in life right now, and then the second way is like more traditional, where we are, more, maybe formal, like we're setting the tone for their wedding day. But I love the idea of like beginning to end, like by the time you wake up to the time that, we watch the movie. I have to go back and look at that because I
Yeah.
missed that one.
I know that was my first time actually doing something like that. I tried it once, but it just didn't work out. And so I'm looking to kind of encourage all of my couples to have that approach for engagement photos because it's just honestly, by the time we get to wedding day, we need to be friends. And, I've
Yeah.
had weddings in the past where I've met a couple on their wedding day or the weekend of their wedding, because you're talking back and forth through Zoom. And I've made it a point now to just like, if it's an out of town wedding or somewhere that I can fly to, that I just catch a flight for a weekend. And even if we don't, shoot or there's not an engagement or bridal session, we just go out to dinner and hang out.
I love that.
Because like we should not be meeting for the first time your wedding weekend because it's like meeting a stranger,
It
like
is.
trusting a stranger to shoot your wedding. And so like I said, by the time your wedding day comes, we need, we really need to be friends. So
Yeah, and that rapport, it communicates through your images too, because it's a level of being comfortable. Most people
yeah.
don't like their photos being taken, so I think that is an element of your storytelling to say that we do have a relationship, and I do, have a little bit know who they are,
Absolutely.
and that communicates through your images because it just feels so like I can tell the energy of the person, and it's more so your style is like you're shooting for the person than you are for yourself in a way. Like,
Yeah, and I feel like all of my couples have said at one point or another, I hate having my photo taken, or I'm so awkward in front of the camera. Like they all think that. And you have to get them to a space where they trust you, and they're freely being themselves without trying, and that's been my philosophy since day one. I don't ever want it to come across in a photo that it was forced or someone
yeah.
was uncomfortable or they felt, just a little awkward or intimidated by the camera. I don't ever want that to come across in photos. And so it's a huge deal to me for me to get to know my couples and for them to tell me their insecurities.
Yeah.
If someone thinks that they have a double chin, they'll say things like, what can I do to work on my double chin? And I'm like, you actually don't have a double chin. It's just the way you're holding your neck. Just little things like that, just to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I feel like a lot of times I'm dealing with the mental with my
Yeah.
clients of reassuring them, and I feel like too a lot of times like for engagement sessions, like I've had couples where I could tell that they were fighting before an engagement
Oh,
session
wow.
because they could be very stressful,
Yeah.
and so being able to say no, guys, we're just gonna go get some coffee really quick,
Yeah.
and we're just gonna like chill out before we can start because like you said, I can tell when in the image that they were uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like you'll be surprised with the tension in people's hands, and when you're photographing, like that is a dead giveaway that they were nervous or like tension in their neck,
In their mouth too.
in their
Like, yeah.
mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. Can tell.
So those are telltale signs. So I would love to know like how you kind of balance, between your clients' needs and your creativity.
Like being a creative is, especially for someone like me, because I feel like I have a little touch of ADHD. Like I can't really concentrate. I feel like I have so many things going on in my head that I want to put on paper. And you just really don't know how to do it. And then photography is like the best form to do that. And so being creative to me is just like an outlet or release. And for me, I'm just like saying thank you to my couples for allowing me to do that.
Yeah.
It's honestly their wedding photos are like a thank you for allowing me to just express how I feel and what's going on in my brain and to kind of hone in on like what's really important to me. And that's making people feel special. And that's holding a mirror up to my brain and allowing it to paint an image that the world gets to see through my photos. And so the creative process, I don't really look at it as a process. I just look at it as who I am. And I think so many people try to separate the artist from the art. And what I do and who I am is the same person. Like so much of my professional life follows my personal life, so much of my personal life follows my professional life. I just feel like it's an infinite circle that just keeps going and keeps going. And so photos to me are just a way to say thank you to my couples for allowing that to happen.
Oh my goodness. I never thought about it that way because I also do have ADHD as well. I feel like and I would say I
Yeah.
don't want to typecast us, but I feel like a lot of us do in
Yeah,
terms of
I feel like that
photographers.
too. Yeah. Mine is non-diagnosed, but I know, like I was
Yeah.
talking to my sister about it and I was like, I know I have it. I know it.
Yeah, like,
And
mine
the
is
older I
diagnosis.
get, the worse it gets. And I'm just like, I need another hobby other
Yes.
than, than shooting to kind of hone in on this. But that's good to know I'm not the only person that has it.
No, absolutely. So I also have noticed that you had a project as well.
Okay.
So I have a personal project. It's called Ski Taught Me, and it is
I've seen it.
documenting. Yeah, did you?
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I've been working on it for like the past
Okay.
5 years, and it is documenting homecoming because I thought it was really important to document the Black experience
Oh
at
yeah.
homecoming. It's such a beautiful experience for us, and I was like, dang, I've not seen a book that really talks about this for us. So I'm doing a coffee table book, and I saw that you also did some photos of you being in New Orleans, and I would love to learn a little bit more
Yeah.
about that.
And I don't even think that's like everybody keeps saying that needs to be a personal project, but I've just built a portfolio of just shooting, second lines and just people in New Orleans. Like every year it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I only post about it on Mardi Gras. I think I made sure like 5 to 10 images on Mardi Gras, and people are like, when is this going to be a series?
Yeah.
But it's so hard for me to kind of concentrate on personal things because I'm still so in love with weddings.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find time maybe this year for my 40th birthday. Oh, I'm telling my age. I did a project, like a family project, that I really want to continue. And basically, I took family photos that were like 40 years old and I recreated them using different family members. Like I did a photo of my Aunt Brenda I found from like 40 years ago, and she's standing in my grandmother's yard, like smoking a cigarette, like huge bouffant hair and white dress, cigarette. And 40 years later I recreated that photo with her granddaughter, and it's like really hard to tell the difference between the two. And I was like, if there is a family project or any project that I would want to continue, it would be that, because I never realized how strong our family genes were until I started shooting, family members and comparing them to like, their grandparents or aunts and uncles and people like that. But I'll forever shoot New Orleans because New Orleans is so magical.
Yeah, it is.
It's like Disney World. It's the most
It is.
magical
Like New
place.
Orleans is its
Like it
own little
is.
bubble. It's
It
really
is.
amazing.
And when I moved, I was like, this place is going to get me in a lot of trouble because there's always so much to do and it's just like so much fun. But like attending second lines and Mardi Gras and just shooting, different characters and just different people, and there's so many colors and the characteristics of every single human being in New Orleans is just to celebrate. Not only celebrate you, but they take joy in being celebrated. And so to capture that and to have it on film it's something that's just very dear to my heart, and I will
Yeah, but
continue
I
to do
love that though. I love that you're doing something for you.
that.
And I feel like a lot of times us in the wedding industry and just as photographers, like not everything has to be something. Sometimes it is okay to have things that are for you. And then even with you being able to say I show it, every just for Mardi Gras, that's fine. But even the strength of being able to say that I'm telling the story of New Orleans through my lens and like being able to have those images for yourself, I think there's something really powerful behind that. And there's this photographer, and don't quote me if I'm wrong, they had this whole thing of they don't even develop the film after they took the photos. Like they had a personal project where the magic was in taking the photo and versus seeing the photo, and it's like, no, I got to see it.
Yeah,
But I thought that was really inspiring too,
that is
that they have like
inspiring.
all these rolls of film that
Yeah.
they never developed.
See, my mind does not work like that. Like
Yeah.
I want to see what I shoot. It's like Christmas Day opening that file from Richards. It's just I want to shoot. I want to see everything that I shoot. I don't think I have the patience to wait on. I commend people for doing that, but that is just not me. I'm just such an anxious and eager person that I just want to see everything I shoot. So,
I love that. And so I do have another question because I do feel like you have a really great way of pulling out emotion and like capturing emotion. So like for the listeners, like what are some things that they could potentially do to capture those type of moments, or, being able to see
yeah.
those type of moments before they happen?
I think you have to be, and that's for me, that was like the difference in shooting digital and film. when I was shooting digital, I feel like I was just all over the place, and I was just, not really concentrating on what was happening and unfolding before me. Film is really slow. And so it gives you a lot of time to be aware of the things that are unfolding in front of your eyes. Like I can tell when someone's about to cry now, because I'm not out or off trying to shoot 200 photos of details and things like that. Like I can tell when the tears are coming. I can tell when a moment is about to happen. I can tell when a flower girl is, getting antsy and she's about to start doing spins in the middle of the grass. You just have to be conscious of the things that are happening in front of you. You have to be present in wedding day. Like I said, wedding days for me are not step and repeat. I'm just not going through one wedding day and then eagerly awaiting the next just to do the same thing. Like I am in the moment. I am talking to moms, to dads, I'm asking questions. And for me, that is like the luxury. People use that word so loosely now. Like I don't even
Girl, we
like
have
it.
a whole podcast coming up
I
about
know
luxury.
luxury. I don't even like the word anymore because people misuse it so much.
Yeah.
But see, the luxuries in the relationships.
Yeah.
The luxuries in the fact that, the mom told you before the wedding that she's, has a hanky from her grandmother that she's going to give to the bride, and there's a whole 20-minute story behind it, and you're listening to it, and when this moment's about to happen. So to me, the luxury is in the relationships that you build with the clients before, and that allows for so much magic to happen on wedding day, and just so much trust, and just so much raw emotion without pushing anything, without just trying to be forceful of it. Because I've seen photographers actually, someone's crying and they'll like make the tear darker, or like go in and Photoshop the tear so it's just more pronounced. I'm like, that's not even necessary.
Yeah.
Just let things like that happen naturally. Like sometimes you can see tears on my clients' faces and sometimes you can't, but I was there and I knew what that moment meant for me. And that's why I think I write a lot on my post to kind of explain what was happening to me or how I was feeling during a moment, or kind of tie a wedding to like a family story. Because sometimes the emotion doesn't really translate on camera like I want it to. You may think it does, but sometimes it doesn't, because like the tears aren't really there. But sometimes I feel it, and I
Yeah.
know that it happens. And so it's like my way of just telling people, this is what happened during this moment. This is how it made me feel. And these are the moments that I live for.
Oh,
So,
I
yeah.
love that. And I think one of the big things that has changed my storytelling as well is like I've realized that I was moving too quickly.
Yeah.
And so, like, staying with the moment a little longer,
Yeah.
because it's like on a wedding day, you feel like, oh, you're going to miss something,
It's
or like
something.
something
Yeah.
else is happening. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, just stay with that person a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
And you'll see the moment that you're looking for. Like you saw the moment happening, but you may not have just caught it at the
Yeah.
right moment. So that was something that I had to learn too.
Yeah. You just have to slow down. Honestly, slow down. Like to me, weddings used to just be just a race against time, because you knew you only had like 8 hours to get everything in. And so now I just don't look at it like that. Like if things are meant to happen, they're going to happen, and you're just going to be there to document it either way. So,
Yeah, and I think too, something that I've done just for everyone is I really explain that to my clients. So I know that you have a lot of conversations. I know that you are vetting really, really early, because we've gotten in a place in the wedding industry where you like we we've gotten the place in the wedding industry where everyone is expecting things a certain way, and it's like you have to have this or you have to capture this, and
yeah.
it's like, yeah, but that may not be the story that's being told the day of.
Yeah.
Like being having a flat lay, because I've never been big on flat lays. It never fit really well into the
Yeah.
story that I was telling. And so I think that's also something to keep in mind when you're trying to communicate your storytelling, is you got to do it on the front end too.
You do. You do. And I think that comes like with the word luxury. I feel like there are so many rules with that word. Like you have to do this, you have to do that. You're not supposed to have a relationship with your clients if you're a luxury wedding planner. You're not supposed to like talk to your clients after the wedding. You just deliver the album, and you just keep it moving. And it's really sad that we've come to that. Like I said, to me, the luxury is in the people.
Yes.
I remember when the Harper's list came out and the interview, and a lot of us said, a lot of us, said they were asking about the relationships with the clients. And I think some of us said something like our clients feel like family. And there was this group that went in on me like, oh my gosh, well, she's not a luxury wedding photographer. She's saying that her clients feel like family. But I know where that came from. Like, for me, weddings are like a family reunion or, a class reunion. And to me, like I said, the luxuries in the relationships that you build with these people. I love it when the mom of the bride FaceTimes me like 2 years later. And she's like, did you know Susie had a baby? I don't know if you knew she had a baby. Here's John. John, say hi to your mom's wedding photographer. I think I don't know, that's a moment that to me says you made it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
versus like any list or any
it.
amount of money. Like to me, that is a luxury moment that says, you know what, you've made it.
Yeah, and I want to say that Harper's list was a very difficult time for me too. So that's a
Oh
whole different.
my God, Lord,
So for those of you who know, Mo
man.
was also on the Harper's Best of list as well, and that time period was really difficult.
It was. I was petty during that time. Like every time I saw somebody say something, I would follow them on Instagram or Facebook.
Oh, yes,
But
it
I've
was.
gotten over it. Like yeah, it was very difficult because the magnifying glass. I've never felt
Yeah.
judgment like that
I
in my
never felt
life.
judgment like that. And
You
that,
just
and
like,
I talk a
what
lot
is
about
this?
that time period too. Like it,
I've never talked about it. I don't think
yeah,
on camera. I've never said anything, but it's something that is in the back of my mind sometimes
yeah,
because I feel like we're constantly just having to prove. Like,
yeah. Oh
and
man, Mo, that is a whole
it's
like,
a whole, that should have
yes.
been the topic for
That
this.
should have been the topic because that imposter syndrome like stuck
Oh,
with
it's
me for
real.
like the
Yeah,
last 3 years. Like it took
yeah.
me some time to like dig myself out of like getting on that list and everything that happened afterwards. Like people saw it as such a good thing and it was like it was good, but it was a lot of bad that came with it.
It was so much bad that came with it. My Birmingham did like an article on me, like AL.com. And I just remember sharing that article and just because I needed the validation,
Yeah.
because like like you, imposter syndrome, like a lot of us do have. But yeah, it's a whole lot of people out here with
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. But
Yep.
yeah, we can
And
talk.
I want to say to you guys too, like, no matter what happens, like Mo's voice was Mo's voice from the beginning,
Yeah,
And I feel like your voice is for the person that you're communicating with,
yeah,
and it is very, it's just very unique and it's different. And I feel like in today's world, in today's industry, like staying true to yourself is the most important thing you can do because you've never been on the trends, you've never been that type of
yeah,
photographer. You've always been storytelling first and those relationships first. And I
yeah.
think that that speaks a lot of volumes.
Well, thank you. I've just never really been like a trendy person, and I've never when people ask me like what my philosophy on photography is, I just do what I want to do. Like there are no rules and no regulations. And I remember like back in the day they were saying you had to post like 3 times a day. I'm like, it's hard for me to post 3 times a year. And then they were like every 5 photos has to be like a photo of yourself. I don't think I have 5 pictures of myself in the 500 posts that I've made. And then it was like the clubhouse, like
Yeah.
an invitation to the clubhouse, and then like you got to make a reel every day. And it got to the point where it was like, I can't, I'm not doing this. And I just,
Yeah.
when you say you don't care what other people are doing, you have to say it with your entire chest and just
Yes.
really not care because I know how my brain works and me trying to keep up with something like that that's changing and happening like every 2 weeks. I'm like, I can't post 6 times a day. Like, who does this? Like, I can't do an introductory Friday every Friday. Like, hi Mo, I don't like cats. I can't do that every Friday. Like, I'm not that interesting. Like, it's just gonna be like a 10-second clip, but it's crazy to see how trends come and go. And I don't have any issue whatsoever with the way people shoot.
Right.
And now it's like I remember it was a lot of flash photography at one point, and people were like down and out. I'm like, let people shoot how they want to
How they
shoot.
want to
Like
shoot.
you make your money, you let them make their money. And so I've just never been a type of photographer who's on the side of what's right and what's wrong in
Right.
art.
Right.
Because if art really is subjective, no one should be making a post about what other people are doing. And that's just the way I feel.
Yeah, and I think what you're really speaking to is like just the longevity that you have because your voice has been so consistent. And I
Yeah,
feel like our art is our art. We all have different ways of expressing it, but like standing true to yourself and what you feel like is the best way to approach your art is what's going to give you longevity and what's going to
yeah,
give you uniqueness and just your overall voice. Because I feel like in our industry, because we are so dependent on the next person that's coming, like in terms of like we have a new demographic
yeah,
we're serving the next person, like we're not serving people over and over again generally with weddings. It's really important that you still have you in the middle of all of that. Like you can be
yeah,
really you know you can be really led to want to follow trends, but
absolutely.
your voice is going to be should be your trend. Like what
Yeah.
you feel like you want to do should be where you should go.
And I know like following a trend for me will be exhausting.
Yeah.
Because I give up so easily. I'm just like, you know what? If something isn't working, I'm just like, I'm just completely over it. And so trends can be good and they can be bad, but we're not the people to decide. I
Hmm.
just feel like that's just all internal and do you, boo.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to end
I
it.
mean, seriously, do you?
So I think my question was going to be, what advice would you give to photographers, like as they're on this journey? But I feel like you kind of said it, but I'm still going to ask the question.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I just feel like you have to expect the negativity with the positive. You have to have this, like, really thick skin in this industry. You have to, because people will eat you alive. And, if you don't have the skin for it, you can find yourself just chasing something that you're never going to accomplish. And for me, I have never chased money because money comes and goes. I've
Yeah.
always chased work. Because chasing money will have you doing some things that you don't necessarily want to do. It'll have you like going outside of your comfort zone and just shooting crazy stuff. And so I've always chased the work. And if you chase the work, the money will come. I tell people all the time, just don't worry if you're not where you want to be. That was really hard for me because it took me a while to get here.
Yeah.
When I look back over my life, I see that everything was just perfect timing. And
Yes.
I just thought that I was working. And looking back, I'm realizing that I was just climbing a
Yep. You're
scale.
building.
You're building. And you don't see it that way until like 5 years later. And you're just like, gosh, like 5 years ago, do you know what I was charging for a wedding? And
Yeah.
I'm complaining that, I only have 5 weddings this year, but you're charging 5 times more than you were charging, 5 years ago. And so my advice to photographers: trust the process. That is a motto that I live by. That has just been the basis for my entire existence. Trust the process. I come from a praying family.
Yeah.
And I mean, things may not come when you want them to come, but they're always on time.
Oh, I love it. Oh my goodness. And you have never lied because I used to pray to be where I am now.
Yeah.
And so like I feel like just taking that moment to say like the journey, like all of those things that happen on the journey, even Harper's, like even the good and the bad that came with that, it prepared me for where I am now.
Absolutely.
Well, Mo, thank you so much for coming on and give everybody your Instagram and where to find you and follow along.
Yeah, my Instagram is Mo Davis Photography. I don't have a lot of followers, so don't be surprised when you get over there and you're like, "What is this?" I'm not like Liz over here.
No,
So
don't do
popular.
that.
So popular.
It doesn't matter, Mo. We're in this together.
I know. I know.
Well, thank you. Thank you guys. And we'll be back next week with another episode.
Thanks, Liz.